So it's day 6 of the Allen's keynote study streak. It's day 6, and today we learn three interesting remedies which are somewhere related to the remedies that we discussed in the past 5 days. So let's start with today's remedies. The first remedy that we'll discuss, and I hope if you have Alan's keynotes with you, it is going to enrich your knowledge. It is going to help you memorize the symptoms because each symptom is like pearl and invaluable, I would say. So just I would say that sit with an Alan's keynote. So good evening, Dr. Maithili. You wished on Instagram, and we are also live on YouTube. So let's begin with the remedy known as natrum carb. Now, natrum carb is a remedy which is especially used in summer or just end of summer when the thunderstorms are coming. So, what is the first line that is written? It is something about its mind, and that is that there is inability to think or to perform any mental labor, causes headache, feels stupefied if he tries to exert himself, comprehension, slow, difficult imbecility. And there is intolerable melancholy, apprehension is wholly occupied with sad thoughts. Now, no patient is going to come and tell you that, you know, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling sad. There will be some patient that will tell you, but sometimes in their tone, when they talk, when they express their symptoms, you should be able to pick up that depression, that sadness that they have, and that is where the art of the physician is important. Okay, so there is a melancholy, there is an apprehension, there is a fear that something is wrong with them, there is a sadness, they are constantly thinking negative thoughts. We can try to corroborate and confirm from the patients if that is the case. And now the next symptom that is mentioned is attacks of anxiety and restlessness during a thunderstorm. Now, whenever there are climatic conditions which are very disturbing, natrum carb is one of the top remedies that will get affected. So you should think of this remedy along with the other remedy that is mentioned in the bracket, which is phosphorus. If there is aggravation from music, we know that it is natrum carb. We saw just yesterday that graphitis is mentioned for weeping from music, but sabina and natrum carb was mentioned for aggravation from music or music is intolerable. So we are here today with natrum carb, and we see a few keynote symptoms of natrum carb as well. These people are constitutions with aversion to open air. They dislike mental or physical exercise. So you see this carbon element wherever it comes, whether it is calcarea carb, whether it is graphitis, or some element of carbon is present in that, or the other carbons that you'll see. Maybe in future we will read about baryta carb and the other carbons, kali carb. They will always have this kind of a laziness or inability to perform work, or they don't want to perform a labor or exert themselves. If that trait is found, and if we try to find out from the patient or from the relatives, think about carbon remedies, and then you can zoom in and find out whether it is baryta, calcium, natrum, or whichever carbon element is there in the patient. Okay. Now there is further mention that there is great debility caused by heat of summer. Another remedy is ammonium carb. Exhaustion from least effort, mental or physical effort, and ready to drop after a walk. So exhausted they are, and there is chronic effects of sunstroke. uh, Chronic effects of sunstroke now with return of hot weather suffers from headaches. So these symptoms, they may present to you, patients may present to you with acute manifestations, but sometimes these patients will also present to you with chronicity. They will come to you with some gastric disorder, and you will tell that you will ask them that whether you are affected by sun, and if they reply in the affirmative, this is one of the remedies that you should think of. Also the other natrums and the other remedy that are aggravated from sun. There is emaciation with pale face, blue rings around the eyes, dilated pupils, dark urine, anemic, milky, watery skin, and great debility. So everywhere you see in this natrum carb, there is a mention of debility, inability to perform work. There is lot of weakness, lot of laziness, and lot of inability to take any mental or physical effort. If you see some patient who is carbon like appearing uh, you know carbon like features when they are exhibiting or when they are sharing, but the patient is thin, and you are thinking that, oh, I could have given him calcium carbonicum. And that's where you can switch over and think about natrum carb, because this is a remedy where uh, it has almost same features like that of calcarea carb, but the only thing is that the patient is thin, and there will be debility, there will be other symptoms that you will see. Further, reading further, we see that there is a headache from slightest mental exertion from the sun or working in gaslight, just like Glunoin and lachesis, with tension in the nape or the occiput before the menses. Head feels too large as if it would burst. We saw yesterday that there was petroleum which has this kind of a vertigo and some vague feeling in the occiput. Natrum carb is also one of the remedies. Over here we see face pale with blue rings around the eyes, eyelids are swollen. Catarrh extends to posterior nares and throat, hawking much thick mucus from the throat, profuse discharge during the day and stopped at the night, just like Nux vomica. So Nux vomica and natrum carb, these two remedies you should think in different weathers. If it is a cold weather where there is lot of cold which has affected the patient, think about Nux vomica as a remedy for coryza, or maybe fever, or maybe coryza like symptoms no stop. But if the weather is changing, like it's cold hot or hot, more of hot towards hot, and there are thunderstorms, there is a rainy like weather, think of natrum carb. Especially the patient will complain, or we can find out from the patient if there is more cough in the posterior part of the throat. He's trying to bring out, or he cannot bring out, or it's very difficult to bring out, and he feels that constantly there is cough which is going on in the back part of the throat. Those cases will improve with natrum carb. Rather than thinking about Nux vomica in a hot weather, think about natrum carb. This will give you good result and good success in such cases. Aversion to milk, diarrhea from it. Now this is a chronic symptom that you see, and when we try to find the constitution of a patient and we try to confirm what remedy this patient should be given, this can be a confirmatory symptom, and you can make it as a landmark and prescribe this remedy. I forgot one symptom from the respiratory system which is mentioned for the catarrh, which is thick, yellow, green, offensive, musty, hard discharge from the nose, often ceasing after a meal. So after eating, they are feeling better in their discharges. Maybe it goes along with the discharges. That's why. Now going further, it is mentioned that there is bearing down as if everything would come out. Agaricus, Lilium tigrinum, Murex, and Sepia are the other remedies. There is heaviness, which is aggravated by sitting and better by moving about. Now, there is one very important symptom which I am coming to, and if you open your ears clearly when the patient is talking, you find the symptom from the patient or the spouse. Uh, you will be able to find out. You will be able to cure lot of infertility cases. Okay, so the symptom goes something like this: discharge of mucus from vagina after an embrace, causing sterility. Now there will be many females who will not be able to tell you these symptoms. If you are a female homeopath, you will be able to find this symptom by asking the patient directly. But if there is a male homeopath, you may need to ask the husband if the patient is not comfortable. And if you'll find that there is a discharge which happens immediately after coition, this is one of the reasons where sterility is happening, the conception is not happening, and natrum carb will resolve this condition and clear the this dyscrasia for establishing easy conception in the future. So many of the cases, natrums are good remedies for helping patients conceive. There will be females who will require natrum carb, think about this symptom and you will cure many of your cases. Going further, we have easy dislocation and spraining of the ankle. Leadumpal is one of the remedies for acute. You can think of natrum curve also, but you can think of natrum curve as a more of a chronic sprain. This is similar to something known as strontium curve in our materia medica. This also has swelling and easy spraining of ankles. And now again, that is a strontium carbonica. So carbonica will always have this weakness of that joint or local parts, which you will see as a thread running throughout. Okay. Now the joints are so weak that it gives way, foot bends under. So the kind of explanation given by the patient is that the foot bent over directly. The other two remedies mentioned in bracket for by Ellen are for the ankle pain or the spraining of ankle is carbo animalis and natrum mure, which is the next remedy which we'll be discussing. Aggravation is from music in the sun, excessive summer heat, mental exertion, and a thunderstorm. And in comparison, we have this remedy compared with natrum sulf for many of the complaints and for especially for yeast like vomiting and calcarea carb and sepia. And this remedy also follows well sepia in cases of bearing down complaints or complaints where patients feel that there is a lot of pressure coming downwards. So I hope natrum curve is clear. To summarize, it is just a thin calcarea curve which you see lot of debility, lot of aggression from summer heat, thunderstorms, and you will see there is headache which you will try to confirm from the patient and some peculiar symptoms of the nasal passage which says that there is discharge during the day and stoppage at night and aversion to milk which you can confirm for chronic prescription and maybe the patient may even get diarrhea from it. Going further with the biggest remedy of our materia medica and very important remedy, the next remedy we'll discuss is natrum muriaticum. The first line what is mentioned and it is very elaborate, four lines almost, the first sentence. For the bad effects of anger caused by offense, acid, food, bread, quinine, excessive use of salts, off cauterization of all salt of all kinds with silver nitrate, of grief, fright, vexation, mortification, or reserved displeasure, similar to Staphy's agria. So the bad effects of all of these things, whether it is anger, whether it is acid food, whether it is bread, quinine, these things will cause natrum mure-like conditions by disturbing the body's mechanism of natrum deposition in the usual places, and they will always have this reserved displeasure. So this goes in line with what we all know and we all study from the college days that Natramure brood on something, they keep on thinking, they keep on dwelling on past disagreeable occurrences. Natramure is one of the top remedies. So, if you have a case where this is kind of expressed directly by the patient that something happened to me in the past and I don't know how to overcome that, or it keeps on going on in my mind, Natramure is on the remedy which you should think of. Irritability, child cross when spoken to, crying from slightest cause, gets into passion about trifles, especially when consoled with. So, small things aggravate, consolation doesn't help, consolation in fact aggravates the patient. You have the remedy natrum muriaticum. Awkwardness, hasty, drops things from nervous weakness, just like apis and bovista. Now you can have a kind of a session on each of the words which are mentioned in Allen's keynotes. Awkwardness, you can talk about it for hours. There can be detailed analysis of what awkwardness will mean when the patient lands up in the clinic. It can be when they are checking the weight on the weight machine or they are handing over the reports to you, it's falling. When they are checking the weight, they are kind of misstepping. When they are trying to sit, they get imbalance. These are little things which show you the awkwardness. If you are a keen observer, you will be able to pick up these things very easily and you will be able to prescribe natramure. Or maybe if you make a note of it and afterwards when you will take the entire case, you can go over this thing again and find out what was the observation that happened when the patient arrived in the clinic. So Marked disposition to weep, sad weeping mood without cause, just like pulsatilla, but consolation from others aggravates our troubles. So we have the opposite condition in pulsatilla. Need not explain this further. For the anemic and cachectic, whether from loss of fluids, from profuse menses, seminal losses, or mental affections, great emaciation, losing flesh while living well, abrotenum and iodine are the other remedies. Throat and neck of the children emaciate rapidly during the summer complaint, just like sanicula. Great liability to take cold, calcarea carb and kali carb are the other two remedies. Now, natramir is very underused in such cases where there is frequent occurrence of cold in a patient. We should think one of the remedies for such cases, because we think that it's only a chili remedy which should be indicated, but it can be a hot remedy also based upon the individualizing factors which we are seeing today in the explanation. And there are peculiar dreams which I think most of the patients will explain, because this was seen in provings also. Dreams of robbers in the house and on waking will not believe to the contrary until the search is made. This is also similar to sorinum. They will also have dreams of burning thirst, craving for salt, just like calcarea carb and causticum. Great aversion to bread, it causes problem. We saw in the very first line when we started Helen's keynotes for natramine. Headache, anemic of schoolgirls. Calcareous is another remedy which we should keep in mind. From sunrise to sunset, there will be a class of patients which will be aggravated from the morning to the evening. There will be another class of patients which will be affected only at certain times. There will be another class of patients that will be affected from sunset to sundown, sunrise. So you can mark those remedies, keep them in mind, and think about prescribing the necessary ones when you see those patients. There is headache, left-sided colavus, as if bursting with red face, nausea and vomiting before, during, and after menses, as though thousand little hammers were knocking in the brain during fever, better by perspiration. There is a very peculiar symptom of natramine related to fevers. I will come to it as soon as we come to an end of this session of natriureticum. So stay tuned, because it goes in line with what is mentioned over here for fevers. Going further about headache, it begins with blindness, just like iris versicolor and Kali bichromicum, with zigzag dazzling, with lightning in the eyes, ushering in a throbbing headache from eye strain. So mental exertion, again you saw, that aggravates natrum and all the natrum compounds. Hair falls when touched in nursing women, like sepia, face oily, shiny, as if greased, plumbum and thuja are the other two remedies. Now, there will be many ladies who will complain that after delivery my backache started, after delivery the hair fall started, after delivery I cannot, you know, do this, do that, or there are these problems that are happening. Keep the remedies in mind. For example, over here it is more of uh, hair falling, especially after the delivery or when they are nursing, in that nursing period. Think about Natomir as the remedy. Sepia is one of the other remedies that you should think of. In fact, they complement each other. You may need to give the other also to complete the cure. Face oily. At times, patients may describe themselves. At times, you will be able to pick it up from your observations. Plumbum and thuja are the other two remedies. Lacrimation, tears stream down the face whenever he coughs, just like euphrasia. Sensation of hair on the tongue, Cilicia is the other remedy. This is just for memorizing. None of the patients as yet have expressed to me this symptom, so clinically I don't know how important it would be. Tongue mapped with red insular patches like ringworm on the sides, arsenic, lachesis, moxol, nitric acid, and taraxacum are the other remedies mentioned. Heavy, difficult speech, children slow in learning to walk. uh, when the milestones are delayed, we always think about calcarea remedies, but natramine should be the remedy that also can be thought when the children are not putting on the weight and there is a mother's history which we have strongly for some symptoms which belong to natrum muriaticum or natrum group of remedies. And in late learning to walk, we can give this remedy. in the repertories you will see this remedy is top remedy for late learning to walk. Going further, we see that there is constipation, sensation of contraction of anus, tone, bleeding, smarting afterwards, stool dry and hard and crumbling. Ammonium carb and magnesium are the other remedies mentioned. There are stitches in the rectum just like nitric acid. Involuntary stools knows not whether flatus or feces will escape. Just like the remedy we know from our strongest remedy which we have in our materia medica, allosocotrina, iodine, muriatic acid, oleander, and podophyllum. Going further, we have fluttering of the heart with a weak, faint feeling aggravated by lying down, similar to lachesis. The heart's pulsation shake the entire body. Spigeria is the other remedy. In the urine, we have the symptoms involuntary urination when walking, coughing, laughing, similar to causticum, pulsatilla, and squilla. With the other symptoms, we can confirm whether this remedy needs to be given or the other remedies. Also has to wait for a long time for passing the urine, especially if others are present. The other two remedies are mentioned surprisingly are heparsub and muriatic acid. There is cutting pain in the urethra after the urination. This is like sarsaparilla. Seminal emission soon after coition with increased desire, weakness of organs with retarded emission during an embrace, coition uh, during an embrace or coition, and impotence is there, and spinal irritation, paralysis after sexual excesses. So you see this action on the sexual sphere and the conception sphere. So natramur and natrum carb can be one of the top remedies for infertility cases if you have them in your pharmacy. It is going to help you a lot of cases. So try to confirm what are the landmark symptoms, and you'll be able to clear many of your cases. Going further, we have painful contraction of hamstrings, ammonium mure, causticum, and guaiacum are mentioned. Now, there will be a class of patients, sometimes you will see them mentioning about them, or maybe you will see this in cerebral palsy also. So, we cannot cure it, but we will be able to limit it and stop its progression. Pressing, pushing towards genital every morning, must sit down to prevent prolapses, similar to Lilium tigrinum, murex, and sepia. We saw this in natrum carb as well. So the natrum group of remedies will have this feature of, pressing downwards or heaviness or pushing outwards. Hangnails, skin around the nails are dry and cracked, like graphitis and petroleum. Herpes about the anus and on the borders of the hair at the nape of the neck. So you see these areas wherever hair is ending or the hair begins, those areas will be mostly affected. And if it is in the bend of the knees, the remedies mentioned are hepar and graphitis. So I was yesterday talking about graphitis, how it is important in those areas where the folds of the skin are there and there are skin affections. There was not a single word mentioned about the folds getting affected at the in the skin, but you see that over here in Natrum muriaticum. So that is the beauty of Allen's keynotes. When you read Allen's keynotes, you see that something that was not mentioned in one remedy is mentioned somewhere else about that remedy, and you pick it up from there and get ready for your prescription whenever you have that symptom which you see. So in bends of the knees, hepar and graphitis in the borders of the hair at the nape of the neck mostly, you can think of natrum muriaticum. Warts on the palms of the hands, if they are sore to touch, natrum carb is the remedy. Eczema, raw, red, inflamed, especially in the edges of the hair, aggravated from eating too much salt at seashore or from ocean voyage. Urticaria, acute or chronic over the whole body, especially after violent exercise. Apis, calcarea carb, hepar, sanicula, and urtica urens are the other remedies. Now, the last part which is mentioned about natrum muriaticum is hay fever. So, hay fever, skirming sensation in the nostril as of a small worm, brought on by exposure to hot sun or intense summer heat. Fever blisters like pearls about the lips. Lips are dry, sore, cracked, and ulcerated, just like nitric acid. And intermittent fever comes and goes. Paroxysms at 10 or 11 a.m. Old chronic badly treated cases, especially after suppression by quinine. Headache with unconsciousness during chill and heat. Sweat ameliorates the pains. So, if you have a patient and the pattern of symptoms in fever is very regular, is very routine, there is a regular paroxysm which consists of chill, heat, and sweat, and the sweating ameliorates the entire symptoms. He feels better, he feels so good and refreshed. Think of natrium. If the headache is aggravated, think about eupatorium perfoliatum. Okay, so that is what is peculiarity of natramur. That is the only remedy mentioned in Kent repertory for in the chapter perspiration. Aggravation for natramur is 10 or 11 a.m. at the seashore or from sea air. Heat of the sun or stove. Mental exertion is aggravation. Talking, writing, reading, lying down. So you see these children who are not able to focus, not able to concentrate in their studies, they require natriumuraticum. This is one of the top remedies you should think. And if children make more mistakes, replacing words here and there, the remedy that you should think of is causticum. So we'll cover that in causticum as well. Okay. Amelioration in the open air. Apis and pulsatilla are the other remedies. Amelioration by cold bathing, going without regular meals. Now, interesting fact is that if they are hungry for a long time, they will be able to bear it. They have no problem. Whereas you see the remedy sulfur, he just cannot tolerate kalikab. He just cannot tolerate. They want something anyhow, anytime, any moment. Lying on the right side. Now we saw this just 2 days back in the remedy discussion of sulfur. It is not mentioned over here, but lying on right side ameliorates natrum muriaticum also. So you remember these little things from other remedies, keep them, collect them, and go further. And if it is lying on painful side which ameliorates, the remedies are bryonia, ignatia, and pulsatilla. Now, natramur is very much complementary to Apis mellifica. It acts well before as well as after. So, you have a case of swelling where you have given Apis, you can follow it up with natramuriticum if the improvement is not there, or if you want to, uh, you know, totally cure the case if there are remaining symptoms there. Natrum muriaticum is the chronic of Ignatia, which is its vegetable analog. It is followed by Sepia and Thuja. It cannot be often repeated without an intercurrent called for by the symptoms. So the intercurrent can be any antisoric remedy or any deep acting remedy which kind of is indicated at that moment in the case. Should never be given during the fever paroxysms. So I'll be undertaking the fever workshop very soon. Those who wish to join, they can stay tuned and they will get the benefit of it. You will get to learn about all the remedies in detail, and it will be through the cases and interesting rubrics from the different repertories. If vertigo and headache be very persistent or prostration be prolonged after natrum muriaticum, nux vomica will relieve. Okay, so wherever you feel that natramur is has helped, but some symptoms are still remaining, especially the ones that have been mentioned, nux will cure the case. So that's natrum muriaticum for you. You have an entire list of symptoms to confirm from the patient when they come to you, or even prescribe on those symptoms from the Allen's keynotes when they drop to your clinic. The last remedy which we will discuss today and we then pack up, it's a small remedy and also related to the remedies that we discussed so far, natrum sulfuricum. The first line which is mentioned in Allen's keynotes is mental traumatism, mental effects from injuries to head, chronic brain effects of blows and falls. Inability to think, just like natrum carb, sad, gloomy, irritable, worse in the morning, dislikes to speak or be spoken to, just like iodum and silica. The patient of natrum sulfuricum is depressed, lively music makes her sad. Satiety of life must use great self control to prevent shooting himself or take a step which can kill himself. It must restrain themselves. They must restrain themselves. So you see this picture of trait of natrum eroticum. Now it's very, very, very clear. They cannot think well. They have mental traumatism. Now this mental traumatism, we can speak for hours over it. It can be someone that have told them something, they feel bad, their ego is hurt. There can be injuries, which is also mentioned. They are sad, gloomy. You see, it's a natural trait to feel sad and gloomy, and they don't feel good. They are depressed, they don't like music. And if they like, especially the natum carb may like, they like soft music or slow and sad songs and old type of songs. So if you have this trait or these traits, think about natrums or the natrum compounds and prescribe. Ailments from or which are aggravated by or depend upon dampness of weather, damp houses or cellars, like Arania diadema. So you have patients who have leakage in their homes, or the walls are kind of uh, always wet, or there is a seepage of water from some area, or there can be condition just next to their home which is very damp and marshy. Those conditions predispose to the development of natrum sulfuricum state on the physical level. Patients feel every change from dry to wet, cannot tolerate sea air, not eat plant that thrive near water. This sabji spinach, the vegetable spinach, palak sabji, which we call in Hindi, they won't be able to tolerate these kind of vegetables when they prepare and eat, or they have some issues with them. A constitution in which gonorrheal poison is most pernicious recovers slowly from every illness. Every spring, skin affections reappear. Sorinum. Now there was not a single word of spring mentioned in Sorinum. Okay, there is not a single word over here, at least in the sulfur that we discussed. There were many places where sorinum as a comparison was mentioned, graphitis was mentioned, maybe in sorinum it's there. But if you remember this line where every spring skin affections reappear, you will be able to prescribe natrum sulf and or sorinum based upon the indications. In the eye complaints, you see granular lids like small blisters. Thuja is one of the remedies. Green pus and terrible photophobia, gonorrheal or psychotic. Nosebleed during menses. Instead of menses, if it is there, then it is bryonia and pulsatilla. But if it is there with the menses, think of natrum sulfuricum. Toothache better by cold water or cool air. Cophia, pulsatilla, and natrum carb can be thought. Dirty greenish gray or brown coating on the tongue will be there in natrum sulf. Dyspnea is there, desire to take deep breath during damp and cloudy weather. They feel suffocated by the damp and cloudy weather. If it is before the damp weather that comes, thunderstorms, think of natrum carb. If it is the thunderstorms that have come, it's damp and gloomy, think about natrum sulf. Humid asthma in children with every change to wet weather, with every fresh cold, always worse in damp weather, rainy weather, sputa greenish or green, and copious expectoration is there. If it is greenish gray, it is copaiva that has been mentioned. Now, the next sentence is for psychotic pneumonia, lower lobe of left lung, great soreness of chest during cough, has to sit up in bed and holds the chest with both the hands. It is so painful or it is so discomforting. Nicolum is the other remedy which is mentioned, and if it is right lung, it is bryonia. So you can make an entire chart of remedies which affect a certain part of the lungs. If you have some cases which are falling in those categories, think about prescribing them. Going further, we have gonorrhea, greenish yellow, painless, thick discharge, just like pulsatilla, chronic or suppressed. Think about natrum sulf, and thick and green. If it is thick and green, think about kali iode. Now, gonorrhea as a sexual disease is very rarely seen, but the traits are very evident. Study the traits, and you will be able to prescribe based upon those indications. Next is mentioned about spinal meningitis, violent crushing growing pains at the base of the brain, head drawn back, spasms with mental irritability and delirium, violent congestion of blood to the head, delirium and opisthotonus. Aggravation from damp basements or dwellings, damp weather, just like arenia diadema, arsenic iodum, dulcamara, and also there is aggravation from rest and lying down. Amelioration from dry weather, good weather, clean weather, clear weather, I would say. Uh, Pressure and sitting up causes amelioration for the cough. Changing position helps, but in if the patient is better in wet weather, think about causticum. And also, like I told you, open air ameliorates, clear weather ameliorates natum sulf. Natrum sulf will have one peculiar trait which is kind of a tubercular, and that is of changing position. It is painful, but it gives them little relief. This is also mentioned. The other remedy that is mentioned is causticum over here. Now, in the relations, in the end, we see that there is a mention of natramure and sulfur, which is very similar in many of the complaints. Thuja and Mercor in syphilis and psychosis occurring in hydrogenide contribution. Those who cannot tolerate plants growing near water or damp weather conditions, think about natrum sulf. So that's the three natrum remedies. You see the common traits that are coming. That is something that works on the mind, and they are aggravated by music. They are also affected a lot on their body before the thunderstorms or during the damp weather or in the summer season. So you can say they are hot or related to more towards hot, ambithermal toward hot remedies. And this was all about it. So let's continue the streak. We covered around a lot of remedies in the last 6 days, and tomorrow 6 p.m. again in the evening we'll meet and cover the next set of remedies. So that's all from me right now. Let's take a leave.